So, I mean, there were parts of Asheville that no blacks, no Jews, no minority could ever go to. And I didn't understand. And I remember taking on this new, I would say it became my question for myself, which was, I want people to love me for who I am, not what I am.
When life's visible and hidden battles make you doubt that peace, love, and full-on living are possible, We Win Within brings the proof. Guests crack open their great stories that may overlap with what each of us carries, sharing raw truths, hard-won discoveries, and triumphs that illuminate the road for us all. I'm Hindi Stegman, daughter of Holocaust survivors, speaker, coach, and fellow journeyer in life, inviting you to listen, look inside, and claim the champion already rising in your heart.
So, hi, everybody. My name is Hindi Stegman, and I'm your host today for the We Win Within podcast, and you're really in for a treat. Today, we have with us Loren Lahav, and Loren is a wealth of information, but more than that, she's just so full of light and love. And so, Loren, welcome. And
Thank you so much, Hindi. It's so great to be with you.
so, Loren, tell us your story. You know, the theme is We Win Within, and what does that mean for you?
It's funny, like when you say, tell me my story. It's like, I remember years ago, we looked at how do people chunk their lives or tell their stories, or where do you start your story? Do you start by age? Do you start by where you grew up? Do you start by experiences that have happened to you? So I don't know where to start my story. I don't know what,
Okay, well, let's go back to when I was a little girl.
okay. Is that where you want me to start?
Yeah.
Okay. When I was a little girl, let's see, I've got that little girl right here. She's with me all the time. She's right there.
Oh, beautiful.
So there she is. My 5-year-old self, I keep her there to remind me and tell her about all these amazing, wonderful adventures that we're experiencing and the challenges that we're going to go through. So I'm originally from North Carolina. I'm from Asheville, North Carolina. And gosh, how do I tell the story? I tell the story, you know, as I told the story in my last book, which was a little hard, honestly. I'm from Asheville, like I said, and I think a big part of my foundation is that I'm Jewish, and there weren't a lot of Jewish kids in our town. My parents were amazing, amazing people. My dad was involved in every non-for-profit that he could be a part of. He was at the Lions Club for 52 years. He started the Housing Authority back in the 60s when it wasn't such a cool thing. We had death threats all the time about, you know, why are you helping those people? What are you, you know? I mean, I just remember as a little girl how proud I was of my parents for always sticking up for the underdog. And so I think I took on that identity for myself as well as a very early age of speaking up for the underdog. You know, it was interesting in the 60s. Unfortunately, I see a lot of those things coming back up, which is pretty hard right now, honestly, to see. I thought that everybody woke up and stayed awake, but I think people fall asleep at the wheel of life. So, I mean, there were parts of Asheville that no blacks, no Jews, no minority could ever go to. And I didn't understand. And I remember taking on this new, I would say it became my question for myself, which was, I want people to love me for who I am, not what I am. And I really, that became for me a great foundation, I think, for my life and just the people that I brought into my life. I got very, very curious because I wanted to fall in love with people and who they were. And so, as you know, Henry, that's kind of been my whole life.
I know you are
And
unbelievable, and
so,
you're involved with people from all walks of life, and you know.
I really, and once again, I really don't care what you are. I just care who you are. So, like, are you a good person? Do you, as we always talk about in Kabbalah, right? You're either adding light to the world or you're adding darkness to the world. Every time you say something nice about someone, you're adding light to the world. Every time you say something not so nice, you're adding darkness to the world. And I think that's always been the foundation for my life is I really want to know who people are, not what they are. So, I mean, my grandmother is the same thing. My grandmother was from Hungary, and obviously she came through Ellis Island with my grandfather who came from Russia, and but when the reason I bring that up was when my mom started a antique store for my grandmother, and it was a lot of there was Asheville grew a beautiful gay population, and my grandmother was known. A lot of the gay men used to call themselves fairies when they were back then, and so my grandmother they would call her their fairy godmother, and it was really fun. I don't know. I mean, I just we would. My parents taught me to understand all religions, so I went to the Free Will Baptist Church. I went to the Pentecostal Church. I went to Billy Graham revivals. I went to a Catholic school, and so I love it. I love it because I never understood not understanding people and where they're at and where they're from. So my dad would say, the worst thing you could be is be ignorant. So I have made it a mission for myself to make sure I understand and really get to know people. So I don't know. I think I was very quiet when I was younger because I hid for a long time. I hid my voice. I hid who I was. And I remember once when I talk about my defining moment, probably shouldn't share this all the time because someone say I was abusive. But when my brother, we were at school one day and someone made a comment. I think I was 11, 10 or 11, and someone pushed my brother up against the wall and says, "You're nothing but a Jew boy, and the Jews deserve to die in the concentration camps." And I know this is for you because of your mom. And I remember taking my little lunchbox and I was like, boom. And they said, you can't do that. And I go, I'm just tired. I'm tired of people being bullied. I mean, really, that was it. And that was a big defining moment for me that I would kind of found my voice. And I said, no more. So that, from then forward, I was not afraid to share who I was and, what I was about. And I'm a rebel, as you know. So every time that someone would tell me that I couldn't do something, I would say, just watch me. I love that. There's a shirt. It says, underestimate me. That'll be fun. I think that I definitely live by that motto. So when I was I don't know, maybe like a year after that, my grandmother said, I wanted to do something called the walkathon. I don't know if you remember that. And my grandmother
Yep.
was like, what's some itty bitty little girl like you, doing the walkathon? And she goes, how are you going to do the walkathon? And I just looked at her and I said, one step at a time. And I've always lived that way of I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm just going to take the steps to move forward. I don't know. I have no idea how, but I will figure it out one step at a time. And I definitely wasn't going to get an academic scholarship. I was very average. I was, okay in a lot of things, but I was committed to get a scholarship when I was in to college. I saw my parents working so hard, and I just wanted to contribute because I worked all through high school. I cheered. I did all the things, but I have always been in a gazillion different things. A lot of people go, "Oh my God, you're involved in so much." I've always been like this. It's not something new. So for people that don't understand it, they obviously might not have ever lived it. So I was like, I'm going to get a scholarship, and like I said, I wasn't going to get an athletic scholarship. I wasn't going to get an academic scholarship. So I looked for scholarships for just overall good people, especially that did community service work. And I was the first girl from Western North Carolina to ever get an Army ROTC scholarship,
Wow.
and that was kind of cool. And I went to college on an Army ROTC scholarship. I was kind of like a private Benjamin, and I would put on my sorority clothes, and then I would like go to my ROTC classes. But that's a little bit of my, way back story, I would say.
So, Lauren, have you always been positive? I mean, it sounds like were kind of a happy-go-lucky kid.
No, I was
And
not. I was sad and I was
were
lonely.
you?
Very sad and very lonely. Yeah. And I didn't understand. So, the, you know, that's what I was very sad and I was very lonely. We lived in when I was growing up, from age, I don't know, 6 to 13, we lived in the country, like 30 minutes away. And so I didn't have a lot of friends. I was always, like I said, kind of caught in the middle of things, and I was very lonely. My best friend is funny. It's probably because I still got my best friend right here. Come here, a different one, but I would definitely say, come here, come on. Well, you can't see her, but I would say my best friend was my dog, and I would just go into the woods, and her name was Dee Dee, and I would just go and I'd cry. The one thing I would say about myself, I've never hid my emotions. I think that like if I'm sad, I'm sad. If I'm happy, I'm happy. But I think animals are such a beautiful healer. I would definitely, you might cry. I think that my dog is what really got me through. And I look at even today, like my one dog, she's right here beside me. She won't, leave me. And yeah, I think that my dog really got me through those hard times. So of loneliness, yeah.
But was there a why for you at that time, Lauren, that took you out of being this, let's say, quiet, lonely child to become out there in the world?
Yeah, the lunchbox.
The
It was the it
lunchbox.
was the
Explain
lunchbox. It
explain
was
that
the
a little bit
lunchbox
more.
was the defining moment. Was I was like, that's it, no more. I wasn't going to be quiet anymore. I was going to speak up, even if people didn't, um, understand me or understand situations. I was going to speak up, and it was interesting because that same year, I was kind of moving from this one school that my parents sent us to, my brother and I, and I was at the I don't know, maybe it was like at the commencement service, and I started crying. And this girl looked over at me and she said, "Why are you crying? You're coming back here next year. Why are you crying? You're not leaving." And I remember looking at her and I said, "No, I'm not. I'm leaving. I'm out of here. You guys have been awful to me. You've been terrible. I've never felt a part of things." And it's funny because I talked to some of those people today and they're like, "It wasn't like that. We really liked you. And I'm like, no, you didn't. You actually were not nice at all." And so, sometimes you wonder the story. That's why I keep this little girl in front of me to remind me. I'm like, did that really happen? Did it happen? And I'm like, yeah, that happened. I think that for me, when I make a decision, I'm like, I'm done. That's it. We're done. Moving on, and we move on. So I think that defining moment really changed everything for me. I spoke up, and told my parents, I'm like, I don't want to go to school here anymore. I want to go to public school. You've raised me to love and appreciate everybody. So I want to go and I want to meet people. And I remember the first day of my public school experience, I was standing outside. It was called South French Broad. It was like a junior high, South French Broad. And I'm walking in. I got my cute little outfit on, and my mother had a dress store called Vestido, which means dress, as you know, in Spanish. And so we would always go to New York. So I'd always get like the newest, hippest clothes about 6 months before everybody else had it. So it sounds cool, but it wasn't very cool because you were different once again than everyone else. But I remember my parents dropped me off. And next thing I saw these two girls like getting in a fight, like full on, like going for it. And one of them grabs a 2x4 and was going to hit the girl with this piece of wood. And I remember the dean, her name was Mrs. Williams, this tall, beautiful, African American woman. She must have been like, I don't know, 6 feet tall. And I remember the two girls were getting ready, and this lady grabbed this 2x4 literally out of this girl's hand. and I remember a tooth went flying and hit me. One of the girls' teeth went flying and hit me in the face. And I'm like, all right, let's go. I'm here. I asked for this. I want to be a part of the real world. And, some people go, why is that so important? Why does that even matter? And I was like, you know what? It was such a beautiful metaphor for me. It's like, you got to just say, let's go. Let's do this. You're going to run up against challenges. How are you going to deal with those challenges? So instead of going, I want to go back to that other school, I was like, nope, let's go. And then and what's really amazing is one of the girls I became really good friends with, like super good friends with. And I took the time to find out my first day in public school of like what was going on. And it turned out that one of the girls, same kind of like my lunchbox story. It's funny, like what happened was somebody had said something about one of the girls, I think it was her brother or something, and that's what caused her to do it. Obviously, we don't want violence, but it was interesting. It was the same. It was like stop, stop the madness. So anyway,
So you've always stood up for the underdog?
I've always stood up for the underdog, and a lot of people don't understand that, right? A lot of people. I mean, you saw it with me for a lot of times when someone goes, this person, this, and that. I'm like, hang on a second. And I came up with something probably not until I was in my 30s. I learned it from a man who was, excuse me one second, my dog, I have to let her out. One of my, oops, let's turn this back. One of my, whoops, my camera, there it goes. Tony Robbins had a CEO. His name was Alan Hahn, and Alan would come and go, just come and go. He would never, talk to anybody. And one day when Tony's book, Awaken the Giant Within came out, I was working at corporate, and Alan came in. He said, whenever you make a judgment about somebody, I would encourage you to ask this question. And the question is, maybe there's something I don't know. And it turned out that his son, unfortunately, had passed away the month before. And everybody just thought he was a jerk, but really he was just grieving. And, but people like assumed that he was just a jerk. And I think I know that question has really served me my whole life. Instead of making a judgment, of taking the time to go, what don't I know here? So that one question really has affected me on a very, very deep level, especially when.
Don't you find that people judge right away? You go into a room and they look around and they see that you're tall, you're short, you're fat, you're skinny, you're light, you're dark, you're this, you're that. And in a few seconds, they make a judgment about you.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
they know nothing about you.
Nope. Absolutely. And I think that's where it's our responsibility right now to get curious, right? Like I was yesterday heading into, I went to go buy a wedding card right here. I got to mail this. I bought a gift for a friend of mine's son who just got married. And I'm like, I need a card. I got them a gift, but I didn't have a card. So I walked into Walgreens. Well, before I walked into Walgreens, I was like, what am I going to wear today? And I just have my my whole closet, redone. And I'm like, okay, I'm only going to put things back in the closet that I'm really going to wear, that I don't want to, I just don't want to throw stuff back in there. So I had this t-shirt. I went to Georgia, went to the University of Georgia, as I shared. And I had this Georgia shirt. So I'm like, I'll put the Georgia shirt on today. I haven't worn that shirt in, I don't know, a year, maybe. And as I'm walking into the store, there's this girl, and she has a little birthday sash on her. She's with her mom, and she's a bigger girl. And I'm like, is today your birthday? And she goes, yep. And so the mom looked over at my shirt, and she goes, we actually just moved here from Georgia. Like I would have never had that conversation, unless she said that. And then it turns out that her son was recruited to play football here at the Gorman High School, which is a really big high school. And I was like, come on, little girl. I go, let's go shopping. I go, you go pick out whatever you want here. And I'm like, I came here to get a freaking card, $40 later. I'm like, it's fine. But I think that a lot of times, people make judgments, would have made judgment about the little girl, would have made judgments about just the whole situation. And now I've got a new friend. So,
Isn't it amazing how often I call them God incidences? We're either put somewhere where someone comes into our life and it was exactly what they needed or I needed, and we don't realize. And I don't know that we're grateful enough or conscious enough that that gift just happened.
yeah, I think that we need more of those because I was just in the airport in LA on Wednesday. And like you look at it, I'm like, sometimes I just want to go up to people and go, why are you so mad? Like I want to just say, how's your day? What's going on? And I think that if we can really bring back kindness and really bring back love and really bring back, I don't remember, even though things were different in the 60s, you know, because Asheville was a very unique city. But I don't ever, even though people were different, people weren't separated like they are now. So they were different, but you acknowledged each other's differences versus attack each other's differences. That's what I would say. And I think that, if we can just go back to that a little bit about going back, that's just me, but my husband and I literally were just talking about this morning. And, okay, you're different. All right, move on, just whatever. And then just go on with everything and just appreciate that person and their differences. So,
Well, so often it's fear of other fear. People go into this fear that you are different in some way. And so immediately they don't want to get close or whatnot.
but that's again, like I'm saying, it's people of who you are, not, of what you are, not who you are. It
Exactly.
goes right back to that. And so that's the thing that I'm like, what is going on? It's like, I want people just to know. And if people don't know, if people don't love me for who I am, then that's okay. It's all good. I know who I am and I know what I
People
stand for and I know my intentions and I know my heart. So,
people say to me, Hindi, how do you transmute that kind of energy? And I say, I smile. I
yes, you do
smile at
all the
people.
time. Yep.
I do.
But you're like me too. Sometimes we're little, but we're mighty and we can get intense. And I think a lot of times, but I think like I've learned this from you too over the years. You just, who you are. You know that you're a good person. You know that you care deeply. You learned so much from your mom. I really respect you about just your beautiful relationship that you had with your mom and just all that we learned resilience. I think that that's a challenge too. I think people are not resilient and people just, wow, I am so grateful. Like people ask me all the time, would you change anything about the way you grew up? It was hard and you were lonely and people were nasty and people said nasty things. And I'm like, and I go, no, I wouldn't change because yes, it was hard in the moment, but it's what's really made me who I am and everything that I stand for, my values in my life. And I wouldn't change it.
But
So,
so many people, don't you find, Lauren, they are fixated on their childhood or they internalize it constantly. I can't do this or I can't be this because,
oh my
my
gosh.
mother yelled at me when I was younger or my father beat me or whatever it was. And they stay in that state of victimhood and people around them they say yeah you're right, you're absolutely right, and we're not truthful even with our own friends.
Oh, I had this conversation with friends of mine yesterday. They're dealing with a situation with their son. They're like, he's going to hate us for the rest of our life because of, I go, are you sure about that? because I don't think so. I mean, if that's the story you're going to say, and if that's what you keep saying every single day, okay, maybe. I said, but I've been through it. My kids, I remember one of them 10 years later was like, thank you, Mom. I didn't understand it in the moment, but I am so grateful for that experience. I know it was like really hard on you and on me and on the family, but I'm so grateful now for it. So you got to be right. Talk about where focus goes, energy flows. Same thing. I mean, those experiences, okay, they happen, but I'm not going to take it forward. That doesn't serve me in any kind of way. This does, this does, because this is like, okay, it was hard, but we got this, and I just tell her. And then I realize like all of the lessons that I've learned from those tough times. And I'm good.
But
I mean, we still,
don't you find that people, the reason that you have come to this place or I've come to this place is I did work on myself. I knew that there were aspects of my life that I didn't like or aspects of me that I didn't like, and I didn't want to stay there. And I don't think people are willing to look at themselves naked and do something about it, the things they're not happy about within them. I don't think you can get from point A to point Z without doing some work.
hmm
Didn't you do work?
oh yeah, for sure. For
So
sure.
what do you tell people when they're stuck in that rut?
But here's the deal. A lot of people aren't willing to do the work. You have to find out, first of all, if you're willing to do the work. You have to ask yourself, okay, if I really do, I really want to make these changes. Um, Hang on a second. Uh, you have to ask yourself, am I really willing to do the work?
So
That's the
if
first
some
thing. Are you really like I'm back in the I don't know. I've taken a huge risk right now, and I'm working with a coach on something. It's big. It's huge investment. And I was like, okay, but if I was chosen for the Olympics, I'd have to train for the Olympics. I'd have to train. I'd have to get the best coach. And so I think people have to decide, do they really want to do it? Because you're going to have to invest. You're going to have to do the work. It's not just like a one-time fix. It's where it becomes just who you are. And so I think first you have to ask the question, are you really willing to do the work?
so if you have somebody in front of you that is just complaining, um, do you ask them that question?
Yeah, all the time. And then they'll say yes, and then I'll find out, okay, like what does that mean? What does that look like to you? Oh, I'm willing to do twice a week, whatever. But you got to know what they're really willing to do. I just had, like I told you, I just had my closets. Um, I just had my closets done. And what happened was years and years and years ago, probably about 25 years ago, there was a lady that came. She was to clean my closets, and she took all my, take my clothes and throwing them in big black bags and getting rid of them. And like, oh my God, and like just getting rid of so much. And so when I went to go see her in the city that she lives, I said, well, can I see your closet? She goes, oh my God, no, no, no. My closet is a mess. And I was like, oh, hell no. I will never be that girl. You know, I want everybody, I literally want to show off my closet because I want to be teaching the lesson that I need to learn most. I don't want to be the person that's teaching the lesson that I need to learn most. So that's why I was like so frustrated with my closet for so long. I got to get my closets done. I got to get my closets done because I have this tiny closet, and I was like, oh my God, like I want people to be able to come into my closet and go, what a pretty little sweet little closet. And now I feel it, right? Like now it's just, so I think you have to ask yourself, are you willing to do the work? So are you willing to do the work? And what does that look like to you? What does that really mean to you? But there's I think people they like the story. So you have to first of all be willing to give up the story and create a new story. So that's the other thing as well.
Yeah, I think w- people tell that story over and over and over again, and they embellish it a little bit too over the years. And
Yeah.
then that's who they are. And everything is energy.
Yep.
And it's so important. I really think that on a daily basis, you have to be a warrior for yourself
Yep.
and know how you're feeling. And it doesn't matter how positive we are, we're still human. So we're going to have moments and days when stuff happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I think though that the more you can, like for me, I really believe that what you do first thing in the morning is the most important thing. As you know, I say every day, today is going to be the best day of my life again. And I assume that the day is going to be amazing. I just assume that it's going to be awesome. So, what does that mean to me? I do my I am statements. I'm loving, I'm honest, I'm passionate, I'm compassionate, I'm kick ass, I'm full of faith, I'm God's girl, I'm
Oh,
too
I
right or tight.
think we're frozen. It's either you or me.
Must, it's you. It's
Okay.
you. But every morning I say, I'm loving, I'm honest, I'm passionate, compassionate, I'm kick ass, I'm full of faith, I'm God's girl, I'm Tomb Raider tight, I'm a sexy salsa, I'm hilarious, you know, and nobody can take it away from you unless you give it to them. And so, too many times we give our power away and we wonder why we feel like crap, right? So, the minute that you just decide, like, this is just how I'm going to be, like it or not, this is how I'm going to be, and then you start emanating that in the world. So, I think that you have to decide like what is the first thing you do in the morning and how do you like what you see in the mirror. I love talking in the mirror. I look at it, I'm like, you look fabulous today, you got this. and,
Right,
and so
right.
um
So, so rituals.
for sure, for sure, I think. And rituals really shape everything. I was the person that I'm working with, that I flew to LA for, that I'm working with coaching on this, is that they have done the same rituals for 57 years. And
Wow.
I was working with them from 12. I literally flew into LA to work with them for 3.5 hours. So and I was like, oh, cool. We're going to, maybe we'll go a little bit longer. And then their wife came in. They're like, okay, honey, it's 3:25. He goes, I know, honey. At 3:30, we have our meditation. We have this, we have that. I'm like, oh my God, that is the freaking coolest thing ever. Right. So you look at someone like that, and that it isn't really a non-negotiable. It's a boundary that's set up that builds such a beautiful that they can be in a relationship for so long with his students, everything. So I've learned a lot, and I thought I had great rituals. My husband does that too. At 5 o'clock, everything's off. We're done. You're with me. And I used to be like, no, 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 I need to keep going. When he goes out of town, I was like, when he goes out of town, I'm gonna like work longer. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. And then what I've noticed now is like, no, I think I'm gonna keep those boundaries. I like those boundaries now. I'm not gonna. Maybe I'll give a little bit, but not as crazy as I used to be.
So, what do you say to people that don't like the structure, ritual kind of living?
But I think what people don't understand is structure actually gives you freedom.
Mm.
It doesn't. I had a girl speak at the Own It event, and she created a company called Jiggy Puzzles. And so when I interviewed her for my podcast, we were talking about a puzzle and the power of a puzzle. So the first thing about a puzzle is, where do you start with a puzzle? You start with the corners. You start with the boundaries. Doesn't mean you can't play within that. It just means that you set parameters to have a little bit more of the freedom. And I think that people have to kind of reframe how they see boundaries. Or what did you say? Like my husband, he runs every day, 5 miles a day. And a lot of people go, oh my God, I couldn't do that. Well, for him, it's his therapy. It's where he clears his mind. It's how that's so for him, running doesn't equate to, oh my God, I can't believe I do that every day. Running equates to that I've got to, take care of my mental health. So,
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think that, it's finding that structure, or not even structure is the wrong word, but
yeah.
finding what works for you.
Yeah. Well, I think finding what works for you that really um, is, in alignment with your identity of how you want to be seen, in the world, or how you really want to feel. So that, I think that's the important part as well. is that, does this work for me? How does this feel for me? I think too many people do stuff and it's like it doesn't really resonate with them at all. They're just doing it because they're like, it was like, you need to do this. And it's like they don't do a check to go, is this really what I want? Is this really how or am I just doing it? Am I just following along because of those things? So,
Yeah. Too often people they also read a book and they see something and they think this is it, and it's not in alignment with who they are.
I
And
think you
of
have to
course,
check in. You have to check in and go, how do I feel? Right? Like, how do I feel after doing this? Do I feel inspired? I do it with every conversation. After every conversation I have, did I feel inspired? And I rate the conversation. Did it give me did I feel inspired? Was I happy? Was it, did I learn something new? And then I also, like, some people, like, when I'm with them, I'm like, I really don't feel great with that person. And I just, yeah. So that's something that was a hard thing, but it's also it's so, you know, I just feel relieved as well.
well, especially when you're a pleaser, it's you have to understand to please yourself, and that
Yeah.
might mean staying away from somebody, if their energy is not in alignment, right?
Right. Exactly.
So, if you were going to leave us with one pearl of wisdom, Lauren, what would it be?
If I would leave everybody with one pearl of wisdom, I would say, as you know, my whole thing is about staying true to myself. So I ask myself the question anytime before I do anything: if I say yes to this, am I staying true to myself? And that would be my one pearl of wisdom to everybody: is come up with a great question where you go, you know what, this feels right, and I'm sticking to it.
Thank you so much, Lauren. It was a pleasure having you on today, and looking forward to many more things to come.
I'm proud of you for doing this podcast. It's you're an amazing woman. There's so much to learn from you. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Lauren. Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.